Hi everyone, welcome again to Bake Your Way Kitchen. On today's video I'm going to briefly talk to you about the different measuring ways you can measure between volume and weight and what to use when. So I'm first going to talk about regular baking measuring cups. You won't often see me in my videos using them. At the time I usually use a scale, and I'll get to that in a minute. But just regular measuring baking cups are for flour, sugar, like the basic dry and dry ingredients it's used to measure. The problem with it, though, is like in baking, just because you use a certain volume, there can be a different density, which means you're not always getting exactly the consistent amount each time you put your measuring cup in to measure flour or sugar. You often actually see, and to prove that, like sometimes recipes just call for 1 cup of brown sugar, others call for firmly packed, so you're constantly getting a different amount. So I generally do not use measuring cups, but if you are using it, one thing I would recommend you do is spoonful what you're measuring into the cup so that you don't overfill or don't put in too much of an ingredient. That's why I find them unreliable, because you'll get a different amount each time, which means your final baking product will be different each time. Now on to glass measuring cups. Glass measuring cups are great because with liquid, the density doesn't change. It's always whatever amount you put in, whatever volume, that's the volume you're going to have. I obviously use it for any liquid ingredients, and you use a glass measure, not the baking measuring cups. You have to use a glass measure because the baking measuring cups will not give you the same result. And so always use a glass measuring cup. And going just back to quickly the regular baking cups, just thought I would just talk about briefly tablespoons, teaspoons, things like that. With those things, I use those because the amounts used for tablespoon and teaspoon, the inconsistency is so minimal that it's not worth weighing. So now I've talked briefly about measuring cups and then the glass cups for measuring liquids. It's important to remember never to measure dry ingredients in a liquid measure. Again, inconsistent results. It's not a good way to measure. Now going on to scale, and my most popular way for recipes. I always measure my ingredients, and the reason I tell you why is because it's so much easier. Even for example, things like peanut butter. If you get to learn what each ingredient that you use is worth in grams or ounces, whatever you use, you can just throw it on the scale. You don't need to dirty a measuring cup, and you don't need to worry about it all fitting in and making a mess, especially when you're working with peanut butter or molasses that can be very messy. It really does save you time by knowing how many grams each amount is per cup, as an example. And that information is very readily available online. Like things, for example, like white sugars, 200 grams, white flours 130, brown sugars 210, peanut butters 240. So it's definitely information you can get, and what I like to do is put just kind of like, if I need to reference, I have a little guide that can write when I'm baking, just so I remember. As I've mentioned in my previous videos, I am posting, we'll have a website up and running where you'll be able to actually access recipes, and I will include also like a scale page where you can just see general conversions of popular ingredients. So please stay tuned for that. I'm still working on that. It's just quite busy, so it's sometimes a little bit difficult to get it all in. But going back to the scale, with the scale, no matter what, with weight, no matter the density, you'll always have the same consistent amount of an ingredient that you use. That's why I recommend for dry ingredients you use that. Obviously for wet ingredients you don't need to do this as much because, like for liquid ingredients, no matter the volume, if it's the same, it'll be the same amount. But for dry ingredients that can be different because the density can be different. So yeah, that's just a quick video on that, and I just wanted to mention, because scales like back in the day were pretty expensive, but they've really come down in price a lot. So if you will be doing a lot of baking, it's an investment I highly recommend you make. They usually run around, the prices vary, but just a basic one that you can zero out, add ingredients, zero out, and things like that, you can get like from $15 and online. So I would highly recommend getting one of those. I hope this helped. If you have any questions at all about measuring ingredients, if you have any questions at all, please feel free to let me know in the comments down below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.